you know they're taping you, right? Like, they will have the receipts. Like, why do you think, like, lying on television to me just is, like, the most not smart thing to do. Like, there's literally a camera on you. Hi y'all, we're Kelly and Julie and we're here to find love. Today we're going to be recapping season 18, episode 2 of Michelle Young's season of The Bachelorette. We are both in a bachelor league, so we'll talk about who we guessed would go home versus who actually went home, what we got right, what we got wrong. We'll talk about who's standing out to us right now, as well as the two sources of drama in this episode anyway, which were Peter and Jamie. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the league first and who went home. So there were 4 people who went home this week. It was Alec, Daniel, PJ, and Pardeep. Probably none of those are that surprising to anyone, but
Pardeep? I was camping for the man. I really wanted him to make it to the end, but okay.
I know. I mean, I did love Pardeep. I'm just not that surprised that he went home. Yeah. I just think that I didn't really see a Michelle Pardeep connection.
That was a personal choice for me. Yeah.
I think Daniel and PJ, those were the two firefighters. Daniel being the one who came on the toy fire truck, and PJ was the one who came on the real fire truck. Both of them went home. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I think I kept both of them, so I think this is where I lost some points because I kept both of them for another week. But I'm not surprised. I don't really think that she connected that much with either of them, but I did get those wrong. Alec, who went home, I think I kept him too. I just kind of messed up here. I think I kept Alec also. I thought I saw him in a preview, so I think I kept him a little longer than I should have. You and me, Julie, we both sent home LT, Casey, Chris G, these 3 white guys. I think, I don't know. Yeah. I didn't really see them on the first episode, so I was kind of surprised that they're still around, but
yeah,
I guess that is what it is. I don't know does anyone know who Casey is on this show? I don't.
Have you guys seen him? If you guys have, drop a comment down below, because
please, if there are any...
Who are they?
But Julie, I saw that you sent home Will, the guy who's in the middle of the drama. What was your thinking with him?
So when I was doing my picks, I knew that you were going to come at it with more strategy and thoughtfulness, and I was doing it was totally based on intuition. I was picking up on the energy from the universe. I was like, who do I think will stay at the end? So Will, I just didn't see it. But now that I'm seeing he has a more active role, I can see producers wanting to keep him on a little bit.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was a little bit in the previews, it seemed like he was going to be picking a fight with Peter from just the season teaser. It seemed like they were teasing that they were going to be in a big fight. And usually, the people who are in a fight on any given season, they usually will stick around at least, a couple of episodes just for the drama. Right. I think probably the producers forced the lead to keep whoever the 2 drama queens are just for a little bit to stir the pot in the beginning, because Julie, you and I are always talk about this with the first couple episodes of any season. They're pretty low-key because you're just getting to know everyone, so I think the producers are probably we need to keep at least some people who are dramatic, and I think Will and Peter seem to be those 2 guys in this season. Did see Michelle kind of talk to Peter about the conflict a little bit, and I loved how she handled it, by the way. I thought she was so great. She was listen, collect yourself, and then we'll see where this goes. I was like, yes.
She had the teacher face on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. She was like, I don't put up with bullshit, so clean up. You're getting one more chance, otherwise you're out. Which I think is kind of why, even though usually I think they would stay until the 2-on-1, I kind of have a feeling that Michelle, this is kind of how I felt about Katie, too. It's kind of they have such low tolerance for... people who are just
you're right,
being jerks. I think that they have a pretty low tolerance for that. So I actually think that if Michelle catches wind of what Peter and Will are up to. I think she'll send them home earlier, like sooner rather than later. I guess we'll see. I mean, that's what I kind of bet on with my picks, so I hope that's how it happens.
So you're just doing it competitively for yourself. You just want Michelle to like evolve because you just want to win this.
Please, Michelle, think about my bracket. Please, Michelle. Since we're on the topic, I guess we can quickly talk about like the Peter thing, because the thing that I really didn't like about Peter was, I mean, there was many red flags I felt like in this episode. Like he said like lots of things that I thought were very like. Anytime someone describes themselves as an alpha or alpha male, I'm like, like it just makes me want to die. Like I'm like, that is the quickest way for me to lose my boner for like any
for
guy.
Sure.
It's just like so unattractive for someone to describe themselves in that way. And it just feels like, ooh, that like tells me what part of the internet you hang out on, and it's like a creepy, like bro
incel
part of the internet.
Yeah.
Exactly. It kind of gives you like a sense of like what your internet kind of sphere is like, and it's like, ooh, I don't want anything to do with that. That sounds like you have a little like a weird toxic masculinity thing going on that I don't want anything to do with. So that was like the first red flag with Peter. Him being like a little extroverted at that date scene, like I think it's fine. Like some people are just a little bit like a lot. I thought that was okay, but it was just more how he was like positioning himself like as an alpha. Like that to me was like a pretty weird thing. But the other thing that, and this is actually a thing that happens on this show all the time, was when Michelle called him out on his behavior, he was like, oh, that was so out of character for me. Girl, nothing is out of character. Like that was so not me. Like people say that all the time, and it's like, what do you mean that's not you? You're always you. Like everything you do is you. And so like saying that something that you're doing is like out of character, to me it's just a way of shirking responsibility and not taking responsibility for the way that you acted, right?
Yeah.
Not only do I not believe, like I believe that is fully his character, first of all, like just based on like what we've seen in the previews and him like throwing that guy's like jacket in the water or whatever. Like it seems like this is absolutely a character, one. But two, like to say like, oh, that thing that I did, that's not me. I don't do things like that. That to me sounds like I'm not willing to take responsibility when somebody calls me out on my bad behavior. And that to me is like, when I see that, I'm like, I'm out. I can't deal with that kind of behavior. So I think Peter has shown quite a number of red flags. Not that I think Will is so great either, but yeah, I think if Michelle really catches wind of either of the, like if Michelle saw what we saw in that episode, I think she would have sent them home this week. So
I really like that observation about Peter, because you are right. He has this tendency to see things in like black or white, all or nothing thinking, and there's this thing where it's like, I'm the victim, you're the one that's like bullying me, and so I get to act certain ways, and that doesn't mean anything about me. It's situational. That is so alarming to me too, because it's like there's accountability in how you're showing up in that. Like someone can provoke you, but the way that you react is 100% on you. And for Peter to like be like, no, it's him, he made me do it. It's like, are you like 10? Like someone can
make you do anything.
No one can ever make you do anything. It's completely like up to you and your decision and your choice. So it is really problematic. It does say a lot about Peter and the way that he views relationships. I'm assuming it's through like a very unhealthy coat in Underwood jumping fences kind of way. Just like, you know what I mean? Just like, I have this narrative in my head and I'm just going to stick to it. Like, so we'll see how long Peter makes it. I just can't see it. I know. Wasn't he the last rose that she gave to? So like, I just can't see it.
I think he was the last rose, although I think there is a preview where it seems like they go on a one-on-one, like they like are tossing pizzas on or something. So it sounds like he's gonna stay long enough to have a one-on-one, but
he just keeps walking in. I'm sorry, guys.
Surprise cameo. Is there anyone who's been standing out to you so far from just this episode, Julie?
I have my men. I have some people who I think are really good for Michelle. So first off, Brandon Jones. How was that date?
I know, as I was watching, I'm like, oh, I'm sure Julie is eating this up. I was watching that episode being like, Julie is probably like, oh my God, Brandon.
I'm just going to say I knew it from the start. I knew that they had like really good chemistry. They had really good vibes. They did
have chemistry.
And the way that they were flirting, it reminds me of like the Serena Joe thing. You can't manufacture that.
Well, that's the funny thing, actually. I had a feeling that you would say this. I was a little bit like, oh, too much smooth talking. Like,
it was too much. I would have been cringing, but I just feel like in the moment, if someone was telling you that, I would have been like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, so that's the thing. It's like, as I was watching this in my head, I was thinking like, I guess there are people in the world who think this is attractive, because I was like, I'm finding this weird, but I knew that you liked him, so I was like, I bet Julie is sitting there thinking this is awesome. So I was like, maybe this is just a me thing. To me, I was like, he's just too smooth. He's just too...
It was too much. It was too much, but I was like, it's nice.
It's too much, but it's good.
It's too much, but I respect your game, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would be curious. Like, people watching this, tell us down below, what did you think of Brandon? Do you think he's too smooth? Do you think he's cute? Do you like him? Like, what's the deal? Like, I feel very, like, I'm a little bit, like, I don't like it when people smooth talk at me, because it always, to me, it always feels like you're saying something, like, not rehearsed, but like my partner Bert, he used this line. He was like, it sounds recycled, like you're just saying
like
lines
he said
that
it
you've
before.
heard before.
Yeah,
totally, exactly.
Yes.
So like I always,
that is the
when
trope.
someone is like kind of smooth talking me in that way, I'm just like, just relax, man. It's like, it's okay. You don't have to take it so seriously. Like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
But she kind of said that too. She was like, ooh, like, you're kind of like using all these lines. So she seemed to be picking up on the fact that he seemed a little bit like, more smooth talking, dropping lines than like being fully himself. But I still think you're right that there was so much chemistry nonetheless between them. So I thought they were very into each other. I don't think it was Joe and Serena level, but I do think that they were very into each other.
I do think too that with like Brandon smooth talking, like me personally in my life, I like awkwardness. I like that type of like, I like that tension in dates. And whenever someone does smooth talk, I don't take them as seriously, but I do I do fall for it 100%.
Yeah, like,
because
I
it
can't
is
take
romantic,
it seriously
you know?
either. Yeah, I feel like for me, when someone talks to me like that, if I do think that they're attractive and I'm into them, if they talk to me like that, I think I would respond similarly to how Michelle responded, which was to kind of make fun of him. Like, why are you talking like that? Like, I would kind of respond in that way. To kind of
like tease them back.
To like kind of break the weird scripted feeling of their lines. Like, I would just like try to like break that wall a little bit by like calling them out, which is what she did. So I think I would respond in the same way that she did. Clearly she's into him, so I think you were right. Honestly, I was not going to keep him that far, but I was kind of like, well, Julie likes him, so
I do.
And I was like, I
like
trust
him
Julie's
for Michelle.
Intuition, so
thank you.
That's literally why I kept him I kept him quite a while in our bracket. Like I kept him all the way toward, not the final four, but toward the end. I kept him.
Oh my gosh, he was one of my.
I'm now rooting. Oh, he was? Okay,
yeah,
I'm rooting for him now because I kept him quite a while. So let's see what happens.
And so the flirting style I do like out of all of them was Nayte. I have to bring it back to my day one.
Your boy Nayte.
My boy Nayte, because I just feel like if I was matchmaking, I would have matched them together. Like 100%. That would have been like the match that I would have been like, this is going to be like a really interesting date for you, just because of how like he felt authentic with his flirting versus how Brandon was. Like Nayte was really just like, hey, like it's really just about your connection with me. He was very securely attached. When all of the boys were kind of like, Brandon's taking up a lot of time, Nayte was like,
Joe was taking up a lot of time.
Oh, Joe was taking up a lot of time. Yeah, he was like, that's not really my problem. Like, I know the connection I have with her. I loved that. Like, how assured he was. That was so attractive. It cemented Nayte, also making it really far to me.
Right. I think I have him as my winner. I think I put him down as my winner. So I really hope, I mean, the previews have teased him as a villain. I really hope that's a fake out, because if he went home like midway through the season, my bracket would be just like
screw Michelle and her feelings. Yeah, our bracket's over, Michelle. Did you have any other standouts when you were watching the episode?
I liked Rick, which I know you said you liked Rick as well. I did like Rick. I think he seems really sweet. I think he seems like actually into her, and like a very like I don't know. He just feels very, just like real as opposed to, some of the other guys you can kind of feel that they're like a little bit like, oh my gosh, I'm on TV. I know what I'm supposed to say. Like, I kind of feel that from some of the guys. Versus I feel like Rick, I kind of feel like he actually kind of thinks Michelle's cute and like is like kind of into her. So like that I like about him. I still feel like I don't know enough about him to like really like rah root for him, but I do think I have him in my final 4. So
do you? That's a good choice. I kind of Rick, I think midway he fell out for me, but after seeing last night's episode, I was like, wait, they have a really nice stable like chemistry. Something about it feels very strong. Like I can see Michelle just keeping him around for a long time because he's consistently just like a really nice date. He's a really nice guy. Like their Mad Lib date was super cute and like very creative. Like that was a really nice use of time together.
I agree. I thought it was really cute. Those are really my only standouts. And then of course Joe like got so much attention this episode. I have Joe in my top 2. I considered him as my like to be my choice for the winner, but I went with Nate instead. But
right.
I do actually think her and Joe have a pretty interesting like chemistry dynamic. Like I think that them being both like these basketball players who are like best in their state and like
the same year, right? Wasn't it both 2011? She was the runner-up, and he actually won it on the men's side.
Right. I think so. Yeah. I think that was so freaking cute. Like, when they were playing basketball together, like, one-on-one, I was a little bit like, oh my god, I'm feeling a little, like,
I know. No wonder he won MVP. If I had seen that, I would have been like, wrap up your season, Michelle. This is your man.
Right. Like, if I'm not a matchmaker, unlike you, but if I was, like, just looking at all of these guys now, if I had to pick, I think, like, Joe feels like a pretty natural fit for her.
Yeah.
I still feel good about having Nate as my top choice, but I do as my pick for the winner. But I do think that there is something there's something there with her and Joe that I'll be very curious to see how it pans out. The Jamie situation. So Jamie basically just like lied directly lied to Michelle and then to all of the guys. I always find it hilarious when guys lie or when people lie on this show because I'm like, they're taping you, right? Like they will have the receipts. Like why do you think like lying on television to me just is like the most not smart thing to do? Like there's literally a camera on you as you did the thing and then you're lying saying that you didn't do the thing. There's a camera on you. What do you think is gonna happen? Like I just don't understand. So like not only did Jamie lie, I also really didn't like the way that he lied to Michelle was like very almost like it was almost like he was like kind of leaning into an opportunity to like take her down a peg because it was kind of like so the whole thing was like he was so upset about the idea that maybe she had a prior connection to Joe and like he was the only one who was upset about it. Everyone else was like, it's fine. Like everyone else was kind of like brushing past it. And then he like went to talk to her about it anyway. And she was like, does it sound like people are being disrespectful? He was like, yeah, I think it's getting to that point. I think people like are questioning you. And it was like, no one was questioning her. So for him, a projection. Exactly. So for him to say that to not only like make her feel like everyone in the house or like many people in the house don't trust her, but to also do it in a way that positions himself as someone who is trustworthy. Like, I think that is the thing it's almost like, hey, you shouldn't trust anyone else in this house except for me. Like, that's such a manipulative tactic. It's also like a very common, like, in abusive relationships, this is so common, like, to create this, make the person feel like they can only trust you or depend on you and, like, make kind of, like, disintegrate their ties to other people. This is like a classic abuser tactic and how abusers get their victims to stay in the relationship with them. And like anyways, not that I'm saying Jamie is abusive necessarily. I just really didn't like seeing that, like kind of seeing him basically trying to like disintegrate her ties with everyone else in the house and like be like, well, you know, I don't feel this way, but like, let me tell you what everyone is saying. And it's like making it so she feels like she can only trust him and like she can't trust everyone else. Like that to me is like, that's like a really huge red flag again. And like, this is the kind of thing that like, as soon as you see it, like I would recommend just getting out if you see this kind of behavior, because obviously Michelle doesn't know. I mean, she thinks that he's being truthful, so I don't blame her for the way she reacted. I think she reacted the best way that she could with the information that she had. But yeah, it was just really slimy to see. I kept Jamie a pretty far way into the season too, but
I think I did for him too. I mean, it was just so interesting how quickly he fell from grace. Like after his story and how open and sharing he was about some really sad and painful experiences he went through, and then to see him like he made her very vulnerable for no reason, and he like introduced a lot of doubt when it wasn't there. He spearheaded this like conversation even though no one else was aware what was happening. It didn't surprise me that he didn't own up to it, but I just don't see how it can't not be addressed, like with Michelle talking about it, being like, well, you know, Jamie brought it up. Like, I don't see how that can't not be a conversation point down the line, and how he's gonna like extricate him from that. I think it's gonna be seen in the next episode, but you're right. It is a little bit, it's a red flag, and it's something that if you do observe it, call it out, and if it happens again, that's a pattern. Like the first time, maybe it could be a random fluke. Maybe that's not pointing to anything more insidious. But if you do see it happening again after you've clearly stated this is a boundary, you need to be truthful, and he can't do it, that points a lot to like issues that they have around intimacy and communication and like manipulation and their ability to recognize it, because that's even scarier, like if they don't know that that's not healthy and they're still perpetuating that.
It's like an ew moment. Like that's what it felt like to me. I was like, very like, ew, like, bye. Like it was that kind of moment.
Yes. And once you get the ick with the partner, like, or with the potential interest, it's so hard to come back from that. Once you're like, ugh, like you kind of like, you give me the ick, you give me the ill, like you can't, how do you like reestablish that? And like Jamie is still so new to her that like, this is a perfect moment. Don't keep working on it. Just like, let it go. You have so many amazing men that are into you.
Exactly. Completely agree with that. I think that and I hope that she does. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you have so many guys there to work with that it's like, you don't have to keep someone around who's giving you like a weird vibe. Like, there's just no reason to do it. So, I hope to see Jamie go home. I mean, he's far in my bracket, so part of me is like, I don't want him to go home, but for Michelle's sake, I do want him to leave.
I didn't also like how he was, when he got the date, he was like, I need to make sure it's worth my time, and he was kind of seeing himself as like, he is an equal to Michelle, but he wasn't like super excited about like the date in terms of getting to know her. He was like, I need to evaluate her as well. And I know he's like a CEO kind of guy, but I know a lot of people that are like C-suite, and they do have like they're just really thinking about themselves first, which is fine. But I just think for the show and how you present yourself to people, it's maybe not the best move to make, because it just shows how you center things in your mind. So when I heard that, I was already like, that's interesting. Jamie's not totally self-aware. I agree.
I felt the same way when he was saying that stuff before his date, and he was kind of like, I need to evaluate her, like, let's see if she can handle everything that I am. Like, he was kind of like,
my life's kind of crazy. Yeah.
He's like, I hope if she can't handle it, then like, you know, I don't want to be with her. Like, it was just a little bit of a weird vibe. I mean, that's true. Obviously, like, you know, the contestants, they're, you know, it's not just, it matters, of course. Like, you know, she's trying to be the right partner for her guy, just like they're trying to be the right partner for her. And so like I get what he was saying, and I do appreciate that he wasn't just like, oh my god, I'm like in love with Michelle, like
I do like that.
Of an eye. Like, I do like that. It is weird to me when some guys, it's like you've known her for 3 days and you're like in love. Like, that's always a little weird to me. But I did think that his vibe was a little bit like, again, just like almost just like trying to take her down a peg. Like, that's the thing that I don't like about it. It's like, you know, kind of just trying to make himself seem a little bit like, I'm like, wow, I'm so amazing. And she's like, we'll see about her. Like, I just don't like that. Like, you can just say, like, Michelle is, like, clearly amazing. Like, I want to see if we're compatible. Let's see where this date goes. But that's kind of not how he phrased it. The way he phrased it was like, wow, like, I got quite a life. Like, let's see. Maybe she can't handle it. Like, the way he phrased it was, like, a little weird to me. Didn't like the vibe very much.
Doesn't it feel like a lack of vulnerability that, like, is pretty prevalent in, like, LA or New York when people are dating? It's like, you don't, like, because so much of, like, dating in those cities, it's very much about who you are and what you bring to the table, and it's kind of external. All of these factors about your job and, like, your apartment and your income, like, all of these things come into play, that I think he's dating through that, like, filter of, like, because on the show, you're just, like, it deconstructs so much of that because you are, you know, there's one person that you're all dating and it doesn't really matter about your job. It's just totally about chemistry if you've made it to that point. It's because the producers on some level think there could be something. But he's not dating from that, like, vulnerability of, like, I want to see the chemistry. He's dating from it in terms of, like, there's, like, this comparison of, like, can she fit into my life? What does she think about my job? What does she think about my personality? It's very much like, I never liked that type of dating in New York. I always hated dating from that image.
Like evaluating, kind of like
it's not really about your feelings. It's really just about, like, what do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? Let's do this, like, inventory. And if it passes that, then we can, like, be vulnerable with each other. He just has, like, a style of dating that I think is really common in, like, metropolitan cities. And he's applying that to the show in some way.
Like, they like, kind of create this, like, laundry list of, like, attributes and, like, when they go on dates, it's kind of like, let me evaluate and see if you check all of these boxes. And, you know, dating from a place of evaluating partners, it kind of, what that does is it makes you into, you're observing someone instead of trying to connect with someone and building a connection with someone, right? And, like, that's the thing. Like, you know, if you are coming in from a place of evaluation, you are not trying to see what kind of, like, what your vibe is together. You're trying to see, like, do I like you? Will you fit into my life? And it's like, that's not what a relationship is. A relationship is not like, how do you fit into my life? A relationship is about, like, what are we going to create together? Like, when we come together, what is that feeling? What are we building? What do we have here? You know, how can we help each other grow, push each other, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about, like, I have everything set and there's just, like, here's a seat. Do I want you to be in my seat? It's like, that's not what dating is about. And I think that treating dating like that can, it just, like you said, it just can end up feeling a little superficial and, you know, kind of, there's just, like, a lack of vulnerability that it allows for.
I love that. What you said about the evaluation and the observation, it feels a little bit like plug and play. Like, you know, like, okay, you don't have to, like, okay, like, we're not going to co-create anything. We're just going to be, like, these two people that are just, we match each other in these levels. And with love, it requires an active imagination from both parties. Like, that's something you dream about together. That's not something that you fit into and finesse around. That just feels a little bit more, just not as, like, lovely. I think that's the real magic of love. There's a lot of, like, you know, like, unpredictability and a lot of, like, just being swept away in it a little bit. And he's like, I'm standing sturdy. I'm really making sure that you're my person. So, yeah, that's a great point. So that's everything we had to talk about today. The next few episodes would just be really interesting to see, like, the standouts that continue to emerge. Let us know what you think about the contestants so far, who you think is vibing with Michelle the most, who do you like the most. Me and Kelly certainly have our favorites, so let us know what you think. We'll be back again next week, and we'll be very excited to continue looking at a bracket and seeing what Michelle does with her men. And that's it. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.